whatever you wind up doing is exactly what you should be doing.
And I have not behaved one single day of my life. Not one day of my life have I behaved, and I am fine.
I need your help. I can't tell you what it is. You can never ask me about it later, and we're going to hurt some people.
Whose car are we going to take?
Hello, and welcome to the Nikki Medoro Show live on YouTube. Thank you all for joining us. Yeah, we're going to be talking about putting kids' asses to work. How old were you when you started working? And is there anything wrong with kids, teenagers, 16, 17-year-olds, working a bit longer and in different locations? Or is this a way for businesses to exploit cheap labor? You let me know. We'll be talking about that this hour. And I want to hear from you. What was your first job? How long did you work? And do you think kids nowadays have too much free time on their hands? That, what better way to get these kids, in their community, being productive, learning about the workforce than putting their butts to work? Or are there so many pressures that this is just adding on top of it? We'll debate it because I'm kind of torn on the whole entire thing. On one hand, I kind of feel like, hell, if I could have my kids working, making money, and off their stupid phones and social media all the time, please. On the other hand, school is stressful. Getting into college is stressful. Should school be their number one priority? So we're going to talk about that. Also coming up on this show, some fun stories. Walmart, did you see the Walmart t-shirt? We're getting into that really early in the show. I was just cracking up about that. I love the headline. Walmart put the swear in sportswear. So if you haven't seen it, I'll show you the picture. Some bad business news, though. Whole Foods, which just opened, last year? A store in San Francisco is closing the store because of crime. So there is a bill by Supervisor Matt Dorsey to hopefully do something about that. How many of you are even shopping at Whole Foods right now? I was watching the news this morning. They're talking about the number of people visiting food banks. And, it's just, is Whole Foods your number one choice? Let me pull back a little bit from the camera. I just realized I was very, very close. Also this hour, in addition to talking about work, we'll also be talking about how many people decide to put their kids to work. There's an interesting statistic. I wanted to find it. 60% of American teens had summer jobs in the 80s and 90s. Now that number is closer to 30%. So as we talk about child labor laws, I want you guys to explain to me why you think those numbers are so low. In the second part of the show, who watched Metallica on Jimmy Kimmel? I've seen Metallica a number of times. It was kind of fun to see him. Apparently, they'll be on the show yesterday through Thursday. Speaking of music, we will get into Maggie Rogers, who has shunned Ticketmaster and is only selling tickets to her concerts the old-fashioned way. You're going to have to wait in line. And how much time versus money would you spend to go see your favorite artist? Speaking of money, YouTube now has the right to distribute the NFL Sunday package. There might be some sticker shock, but maybe not when you compare to how much people were paying under DirecTV. Or do you just stream it illegally and, no one's going to contact the cops or anything, but a lot of people are reacting that way. We'll get into Tiger Woods and the reason why he withdrew from the PGA Championship. Damn, that had to hurt. And some other interesting news, health news, how much a guy would pay for those chiseled abs. So that's all coming up on the Nikki Medoro Show. But first, before we start all that, please click the thumbs up button to show your support of the show. Every thumbs up helps us and helps us grow the show. The super chat is live. I really don't like kind of begging for money, but this show depends on it. We don't have a dedicated sponsor like Steve Moskowitz, although we appreciate him and all the support of getting this show launched. But the super chat is a way for you to donate whatever amount you want. Just look for the $ under the live chat box, and you can do a super comment, super thanks, a super sticker. I will be sure to read your comments during the conversation. We were kind of saving them, but it doesn't, I want to start reading them as long as I see them in time during the actual conversation. And then, of course, the Patreon is up and running. I call all my Patreon subscribers my Medorables. And so just go to the NikkiMedoroShow.com, the NikkiMedoroShow.com. You'll find not only the link to our Patreon, where again, you could donate any amount, and it's more of the consistent money that we can depend on, but also links to past shows. Our PayPal email address, the NikkiMedoroShow@gmail.com is on there. You can also use that email address to reach out to me. And then, of course, I have a link to my shop, the NikkiMedoroShop.com, where you can get things like tote bags and t-shirts. And I just had a bunch of orders for coffee cups and stuff like that. So that's really fun to do, and another way of supporting the show. Blankets are the new thing that are on the merchandise shop. And so that really, really, it helps out the show in any way we can. We really do appreciate it. Okay, so we will get into how old you were when you got your first job. We're going to wait for Kim McAllister to kind of slide in there because I can't wait to hear from her about her working life. But some people are kind of out of a job for a bit, and that's because the downtown San Francisco Whole Foods is closing. Now, they're saying it's a temporary closure. I want to show you the picture of it. And here it is. There's the Whole Foods, kind of goes with the San Francisco landscape. And unfortunately, just a year after opening, it has shut down business as of yesterday. Now, this is a Whole Foods market at 8th and Market Streets. A spokesperson says, we're closing our Trinity location only for the time being. If we feel we can ensure the safety of our team members in the store, we will evaluate a reopening of our Trinity location. They said deteriorating street conditions around drug use and crime near the grocery store was a reason for the closure. And you add on to this, of course, fewer people are even going downtown because of COVID and remote work. Now, there was a story. When was it? This was in November of last year, where they announced they were slashing their hours in hopes that they could keep it open, but just for fewer hours. And this was because of the high theft and hostile people in the area. One person was quoted by the San Francisco Standard as saying the Whole Foods store has a large security presence with at least 3 guards at any given time. But apparently it's not enough to limit incidents of theft. One manager says, I've got so much security, we're spending more on security than any other store I would imagine. I mean, what do you do about something like that? Again, I always go back. It's back to this mentality of nothing is going to be done, right? Nothing's going to be done. And so they could just steal to their heart's delight. And it sucks. It sucks because you want stores like this. Although Jay Siller has an interesting point. That's a bad neighborhood for expensive food. I mean, it's organic, but it is expensive. Don't get me wrong. Amy says the people over there have been using drugs on the streets. They've been around since the 80s. So they sort of tried to gentrify the area, and it looks like it didn't work. SF Tesla says Walgreens took over many of the Merrill drug sites. You don't suppose the thieves are too ignorant to notice any change and kept robbing the same places over and over. Mindy Lee, of course. Why let bad-tempered people attack and hurt Whole Food employees? That they have to close it because of the terrible people in that area. Lisa they said they should have anticipated this as an issue before they built the store. Lori says 8th and Market used to be pretty high crime. Also, didn't they close Market Street to cars? I lived in San Francisco in the 70s, early 90s, so not up to what's going on there. But again, Amy says there's always been crime in that area. I don't understand why they would open up a Whole Foods in the area, then claim there's crime because the crime has been there for 40 years. I love this point. Do you think if you build a nice store like the Whole Foods, that it's just going to push crime out because it's going to draw a different type of clientele? Was this kind of the thinking? I mean, Amy thinks it was stupid to put that location there, but at the same time, if they want a Whole Foods, shouldn't they be able to have one? Or, pardon me, are high crime areas just, well, that's a high crime area. No good organic food for you. I mean, what are we saying about that? Doesn't that seem weird to kind of have that mentality where if there's a lot of crime that we just can't have good stores there? Or should they just be anticipating it, which is what I'm kind of leaning towards, which is like, look, okay, you know where you're building, right? It's going to take some time. There's going to be an element that's going to be there. Gentrification, that term was brought up by another viewer. Gentrification can seem sudden, but you know the first people that move into, let's say, a gentrifying neighborhood, they have probably a little bit of shock about, I paid this amount of money for, let's say, this apartment, or I put in this store, but I'm still seeing X, Y, and Z happening. It can take some time. It could still take some time. Karen says Whole Foods is owned by Amazon. So there you go. Yeah, it's interesting. Well, Matt Dorsey, a San Francisco supervisor whose district includes where this Whole Foods is, put out a thread. He said, I'm incredibly disappointed, but sadly unsurprised by the temporary closure of Mid-Market's Whole Foods. He says, our neighborhood waited a long time for the supermarket, but we're also well aware of problems they've experienced with drug-related retail theft, adjacent drug markets, and the many safety issues related to them. Today, I am waiving privilege to publicly announce, and this was yesterday he announced this, a drafting request I'm working on for a charter amendment. He's working on with Catherine Stefani. It's entitled the San Francisco Police Department Full Staffing Act. And Dorsey says it'll get San Francisco to a fully staffed police department within 5 years. He goes on to write, San Franciscans have been denied the benefits of a fully staffed police department for nearly 30 years. Today, our current police understaffing crisis has never been worse. I want to show you this. Let me show you this chart that he put up there. Here, look at this chart. These are staffing levels. This is how much it's gone down. He says Whole Foods closure, together with many other safety-related challenges we've seen recently, is Exhibit A as to why San Francisco can no longer afford not to solve our police understaffing crisis. San Franciscans, or at least the ones I represent in District 6, are demanding solutions, and they have a right to expect that those of us in City Hall. I hope my colleagues will support this effort. We owe our residents nothing less. So if you look at this, the red line is all city sworn staffing. At its peak, it was at like 2,200. It's got down to a little less than 1,800. Full duty staffing, 1,916 down to 1,514. I mean, that's a big drop. I'm seeing a lot in the chat about blaming Mayor London Breed. Karen says Mayor London Breed's days are numbered. Another person, Cindy, says someone has to run against Mayor Breed before her days can be numbered. Plus, the budget deficit is not going to help. Good point, Cindy, because it came out, last week? That the city is facing a huge budget shortfall, one that they did not anticipate, which, again, you have to wonder about the people holding the crystal ball. It seemed pretty obvious that we're going to have less money. Yep, they need more cops on the street. And Perry Joe Jim Bob says maybe pass laws and enforce punishment. Again, this argument of we have all these laws, but we're not enforcing them, which then in turn leads to a certain mentality amongst criminals. It's like, don't worry, man. You can go steal. Yeah, you might have to spend a couple days in jail. They'll let you out. They're not even going to look for you. And even if they do, even if you show up, You're going to get a slap on the wrist. It doesn't matter how many times you commit the same damn crime. You're not going to be punished. This is a mentality that a lot of people are saying is pervasive in cities like San Francisco. It's the pendulum, though, that we have to talk about. It's not just San Francisco, but a lot of people, this defund the police effort or I don't know, slogan that was, in my opinion, a terrible slogan and didn't really adequately express what people mean. And I'll say it again. This is what I mean. And I never say defund the police. What I say is there's a pool of money to reduce crime. And some of that money, yes, needs to go to policing. But a lot more of it should go to stopping crime from happening in the first place. And when you're talking about the youth, and again, we're going to talk about maybe getting younger kids into the workplace is kind of the answer to this. When you're talking about the youth, young adults committing crime, you got to find an outlet for them, an avenue for them to go down, or they will fill that time. And I want us to remember this because when we talk about child labor, protecting the children, not exploiting children, not taking jobs away from, adults that need jobs and need to support these kids as well. It is this idea of, are kids too idle? Are kids spending too much time, zoning out in front of the TV or on their phones or on TikTok, and their time can be put to better use? Now, is that going to be in the workplace? Should that be with extracurricular activities? Should that be with community service? Should there be some sort of benefit for kids more than just school credit to do community service? Maybe working towards a scholarship. I don't know. I'm throwing things out there. But it's this idea of we need to use some of this money, not just, for after school programs, but mental health professionals. All these sorts of things can come under the thing of public safety. Public safety cannot begin and end with police. It just can't, because police should not and cannot be the therapist, the mentor, the judge, jury, executioner. It can't be that. Police use of time should be to stop crimes as they happen, investigate crimes that have happened. But it can't be someone that's going to interact with, let's say, people having mental health crises, homeless diversion or anything like that. We need to use our money in different ways. John says, jails and prisons are overcrowded now. So who wants a prison in their community? Please write the Department of Corrections and your state representatives and let them know you would welcome a prison near you. Yeah, it's again, I bring up this idea of a pendulum, right? It's like, oh, we want policing to be better. And so this idea of, well, let's get rid of police. Well, no, let's just reimagine what public safety means. And public safety means investing in our community, investing in the people within our community so they don't go down this life of crime, investing in affordable housing, investing in good paying jobs, raising the wage that's not poverty wages so people can't afford these things. Wages come down to simple math. If you have people living in an area and the average wage is much lower than a basic rent, then you are going to have a poverty and homeless problem. That is basic. And if you say move, these people do move to other states and those wages still aren't high enough. And then you're just kind of exporting the same problem to these other areas. It's, Chris says prison jobs pay well. Well, that's interesting. Yeah, Karen says helping the homeless is not a one answer thing. It takes teams of professionals working with individuals. You can't treat them as a single entity. No, you cannot. No, you cannot. So coming up, we will talk. We'll talk about this after Kim's news at the bottom. But I do want to talk because I want to give it a lot more time. I do want to talk about this idea of child labor laws. Somebody sent this to me on Twitter and was like, you need to talk about this because they were worried. They were worried about putting these kids and exploiting kids and all those sorts of things. And then I was reading more and more about it, and I became even more confused on how I felt. Yeah, CA fireman, California fireman said, you need to talk about this abuse on your show. So obviously I gathered how this person felt about it. And if you're listening, I gathered from the word abuse on it. And it was this It was this tweet that said Chick-fil-A is not alone in exploiting children for cheap labor. In Iowa, yes, that's a real sign at a McDonald's advertising to hire 14 and 15-year-olds. Iowa's proposed extreme child labor bills was spearheaded by the National Restaurant Association, who represents fast food companies. There was a TikTok where a 13-year-old whose parents own a Chick-fil-A was working. And this person tweets, instead of paying livable wages for adults, more corporations are paying their lobbyists to push for loosening child labor laws to exploit teens as cheap labor. And that's why we're seeing more of these child labor bills at the state level, like in Arkansas and Iowa. And this person says, it's shameful. So I'm just going to let you guys kind of mull this out, okay? And think about it. Because how do you feel about putting younger kids to work? 14, 15-year-olds, too young? How about 16 or 17-year-olds being able to work during school hours, more than 30 hours a week? If they get parents' permission to do it, should they be allowed to do it? We'll talk about that after Kim's news. I wanted to lighten things up just a bit because I teased it. Did you see this shirt? Who saw this shirt? This is at Walmart. Oh, it's too small. Okay. So you see that "re" there? See the "re," and there's like 4 words on the right of it. Walmart had posted this shirt, and it's an environmental shirt. What it says is, it says reduce. Hold on. I want to make sure that I get it right. It says reuse. Oh, wait, recycle, reuse, renew, and rethink. That's what it says. Recycle, reuse, renew, rethink. Now, why, my friends? Did you notice it immediately, Neiman? See, for a second, I was like, what's the problem? And darn it, I wish I could bring it in. Maybe I could share my screen. Let me take this picture off. Don't say it. If you already know it, don't say it. But why do you think Walmart had to remove this shirt? Okay, I'm going to share my screen and let's see if it shows up bigger. And let's welcome Kim McAllister to the show to see if I don't know if she read this though. Did you read this story already?
No.
Oh, okay. It's still too small. Okay. See the "re" there?
Yeah.
Okay. So the 4 words next to it are recycle, reuse, renew, and rethink. So cycle, use, new, and think. Anybody? Don't write it. Amy has it. So apparently, obviously, if you take the first letter of all those 4 words next to it, recycle, reuse, renew, and rethink, it spells the C word.
But that's not, in a downward way.
Yes, in the downward way. Well, it's kind of like, when...
in a crossword puzzle kind of scenario.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people bought the shirt. One woman's like, I'm buying it before they realize what they did. And so Walmart's like, we're sorry. Mea culpa. I call BS. I totally think they saw it. You know how Disney will sometimes draw inappropriate things in their cartoons and people will see them like, oh, we didn't see that. You're like, no, you're full of it. You saw it. Walmart was quoted.
I wouldn't even have noticed it. I think that's
really.
Don't you think that's a stretch?
Hold on, let me see if I could. I
have a big picture up for you.
Oh, okay. Let's see. I think it's kind of okay. Now that I see, it's kind of this is like now that you see it, you can't unsee it.
Right?
Does that make sense?
But I wouldn't have read down automatically.
Okay. How about you guys? What do you think? Kim says they did it on purpose. She's with me. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think it's a bit of a stretch? Yeah. So Karen's has just reshuffled the words. So it used to be this wasn't the whole rethink. It was supposed to be reduce, reuse, recycle, right? Reduce, reuse, recycle, because it's supposed to be, that's how you're supposed to do it. It's a hierarchy.
Right.
Reduce the amount of stuff you use. If you do use it, try to recycle it or try to reuse it and then recycle it because recycling takes energy. So reduce, reuse, recycle. You could add rethink to it, but then the word would just be like duct, D-U-C-T, which is still a word, but it's not the C word. Yeah. So Walmart quickly noticed their mistake, took it out. I mean, Jay Siller, go ask Urban Dictionary. You know what the C word is. Do you think that the C word is the most offensive word?
Yes. Hands
Really?
down.
Hands
down? The C word or the N word?
See,
I'll say the N word first, followed second place by the C word. Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, not me. I actually like the C word. I don't say it, but yeah, I think I'm using the word like as in I don't say it often, but as far as like the whole
like in dirty talk, that's how you like it?
Oh God, no. Oh no, I don't no. Like if
I
I
mean,
was gonna say if I was gonna say something bad about myself,
right.
Instead of the B word, sometimes I'll say the C word. Like I was
You
being a total C word about it. Yeah.
Do you?
I do.
I'm so surprised right now.
Yeah, I like it. You know why I like it? I like the sound of it out of my mouth. The hard C, the N, the T. Like I like the word, saying the word. It's a good cuss word.
It's because it's so nasty.
Nasty girl. I mean, a word is a word in my opinion. Like honestly.
I find that word to be low class.
As opposed to any other swear word?
Other swear words are pedestrian. That one has a ring to it that's like,
yes,
you've gone to a low place. I need to scoop you out of the gutter now and set you back upon the curb. That's what happens.
I love that Karen brings this up. The Brits use the C word a lot.
They do.
Ricky Gervais. They do. I follow this guy on social media. He is a Australian chef or baker, and he uses the C word for everything. He's like, just throw that word down on there and knead it a bit. Like, like if he's making bread and then he did this whole video, kind of how people use the F word on all the different ways you can use the C word. I freaking loved it. I don't have a problem with the C word at all. It is a word that I think I don't use it often because I think a lot of people are like you, Kim, where they're like highly offended, even though a word is a word is a word.
Clutching their pearls. Oh my goodness.
Oh my God. But if I was going to cut you down, not you, Kim, because I love you, but if I was looking at a woman and I really wanted to, oh hell yeah. Because the B word's just too nice.
Remind me to never cut you off in traffic or really piss you off.
I really don't say it that often. I really don't. But if I did, if you ask me if I like the word, I like that word. I do. I think it's it's just a word that's fun to say because of the hard C. I can't say it though. So everybody just say it in their head or say it out loud at your home. It's a fun word.
That's naughty. I don't know if that word, you know how if they use the F word in a movie, it automatically gets an R rating?
Is that true?
I think so. You can only use the F word once or something. And then if it's more than that, you get an R rating, something like that. I wonder if the C word is an automatic R. Like if you cross into a whole new territory when you bust out with that one.
Yeah. Oh, I love this. What do you guys, what cuss word? Don't write it. Well, I guess you can write it in the chat. So we don't get dinged for that, do we? What is your favorite cuss word? John says the MF word. Yeah. Okay. What cuss word do you use the most often when you do cuss, Kim? The S word?
Probably a-hole.
A-hole? Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess that's a common one.
Sadly, most often directed at my husband. It muttered under my breath, where he's like, I heard you, what you're saying. But we have a thing where you don't, when you start swearing at each other, then you swear at each other all the time and you don't respect each other.
Yeah.
So like he'll say I often do. He doesn't swear at me ever because I get really upset about it.
Right.
But I don't treat him with the same respect, and I really should.
Potty mouth. So I have a potty mouth, as many of you know. So I say the F word all of the time. But I don't mean it like it's a terrible habit that I can't break. So I do have a potty mouth. I say the F word probably the most because it's so efficient. It can mean so many different things. So I could be talking about somebody, about somebody's behavior. I could be talking about an inanimate object. Like, for instance, I had a delivery today and like Nugget would not shut the F up. And I kept telling him so, all of these things. It's just so versatile. That's what I
love.
mean.
Lori
Versatile.
says there was a study done about swearing, and it seems that those hard consonants are what makes it satisfying.
And that's why I love the C word.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. That's what I mean by a fun word to say. Like, you effing C word. Oh, there's nothing better than that. If you're angry,
I can't even with you today.
I'm not even saying it, woman.
Have your children heard you say that word?
Oh, I don't think they've heard me.
They've heard you. If it's part of your vocabulary. See, this is my thing.
The C word isn't part of my vocabulary. Like, it's not my everyday.
Like, if you say the word.
Oh, the F word.
If you say the word and it's part of your repertoire of words, it could come out at any moment, right?
That's
on
no,
accident.
the C word doesn't come out of my mouth often.
So if you're on the air and your mind and mouth are used to working together in order for those words to come out, that's why I try not to swear very much at all, because if you don't say them, then you just don't, like, if a lamp could fall in a radio station and you don't go, oh, S word, right?
Oh,
because you don't use those words.
The F word would come out of my mouth.
Yeah,
the F word falls out of my mouth like saliva. Unfortunately, a terrible habit, but I admit it. I'm a flawed human being. The C word does not fall out of my mouth.
Oh my
I
God.
I don't know if my kids have ever heard me say the C word. I don't think so.
Oh,
if I had to bet, I had to put money on it. I don't think so. Stop judging me, woman. The C word.
I do love you, though. I do love you.
Irish accent doesn't sound as offensive. Oh, so Kim says, I just have to say it with an Irish accent, and then it's kind of what?
It's all good. Fair game.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Hold on. Where did it go? There are so many of you commenting that I lost it. Somebody, I think it was Eric, said, kids hear worse at school. Yes, they do. They do. So I would say that my kids definitely my almost high schooler, probably hear more of their friends cussing than they would ever hear me cussing. I believe that. I tell myself that.
I do, Nemen. And I think I've shown Nikki the note from a teacher in second grade that Jacob was caught muttering things under his breath. Wonder where he got that. In line, as you line up to go into the classroom last year,
right?
His teacher sent a note that he said, what did he say? Asses. He said the word asses. Okay. And he also said the B word.
Okay.
I said, where did you learn the B word?
I learned it from watching you.
No, he learned it from Harry Potter. You know that scene where I think it's Weasley's mom turns on a character and she says, "You bitch."
Oh.
Well, we've watched that movie like 5 times because Harry Potter's big in my house. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's how they know that he knows the word. Yeah.
Lori says, it hurts me not to swear. There's a big difference between swearing, like when you stub your toe, and swearing at someone you blank. I explain that to my elementary school students. Yeah. They also did a study that when you're experiencing pain, it goes down if you can cuss versus not cussing. So there's a release that happens.
I've also read, apparently studies have been done on that if you are smarter people tend to swear more.
Done. I'll go with that study. There you go. I am brilliant. You could call me freaking Albert Einstein then. But yeah, I don't know. Cheryl says, I'm a prude. Damn is the word I use most often. Okay. Yeah.
That's right, Murphy. It is. Stay away from my daughter, you bitch. That's the word.
Wow. I don't think I haven't watched all the Harry Potter movies. So, I know it's not attractive to some people, but those people, I don't need to be attracted to me. It's a bad habit. It's a habit I can't get out of. But if I saw the recycle, reuse, renew, rethink t-shirt at Walmart, I'm not quite sure I would have seen the C word, but I do know that if I saw it today, I might buy it. So now that I do know, it's way more attractive, except I don't buy things from Walmart. So that'll never happen.
Nemen's a genius. Yes.
Yes, everybody's a genius. See, Kim, everybody cusses. Okay, we're going to talk about child labor laws after Kim's news. So there are a number of states, I think it's like 11 states, are really trying to change their child labor laws. And so my question to you is, one, I'm going to lay out a couple of the changes. Two, do you think it's bad that we are kind of relaxing some of these child labor laws, because there have been instances where young kids have been exploited, put in very dangerous, warehouses or cleaning machinery or things like that? Like, do we want to go back to the early days where kids were, their tiny fingers can fit in the holes and then they lose those fingers? Or, you know what? Idle hands are the devil's playthings, and these kids have too much free time on their hands. So put their butt to work. And then I want to hear from you.
Play a video game, you can scoop up some horse poop. So go get it.
There you go. So you guys tell me what you think. Also, how young were you when you first started working? And I mean, how many hours are we talking about here? And should there be a limit if the parents give the permission? So let me know in the chat. We'll talk about that after Kim's news. Of course, click the thumbs up button to show your support of the show. And that's all coming up on the Nikki Medoro Show.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
And police are calling today's shooting outside a funeral home in Northeast Washington, D.C., a targeted attack. That is what they are saying. The D.C. police chief says 4 people were shot. 1 person is dead. The suspect in today's shooting at the Stewart Funeral Home remains at large. Authorities in Kentucky say the gunman in yesterday's mass shooting at a Louisville bank used a legally purchased AR-15 rifle in the attack. City officials say the 25-year-old shooter was a current employee at the Old National Bank, and it was also revealed he had shared suicidal thoughts before killing 5 coworkers and wounding 8 others. Concrete barriers being placed now throughout Akron, Ohio, as a grand jury decides whether police officers should face criminal charges in the death of Jayland Walker. The 25-year-old black man was shot 46 times in an altercation with police after a traffic stop in 2022. The incident sparked riots in Akron last summer. City officials are now taking precautions in case officers are charged. President Biden on his way to Ireland today on a 4-day trip. He probably won't be swearing with an Irish accent. He is headed first to Northern Ireland, where he'll mark the 25th anniversary of the Good Friday Agreement. That is a U.S. brokered deal that ended years of conflict between Catholics and Protestants. He'll meet with Prime Minister Rishi Sunak when he lands in Belfast. Wednesday, the president plans to visit the area where some of his ancestors were from before heading to Dublin, where he'll address the Irish legislature on Thursday. There's some new developments in the case of the Virginia teacher who was shot by a 6-year-old student. The boy's mother is now facing charges and is expected to turn herself in later this week. She was indicted by a grand jury yesterday for child neglect and for not locking up her loaded gun. Police say the boy opened fire 3 months ago in his first grade classroom at Rich Neck Elementary in Newport News, hitting his teacher, Abigail Zwerner, in the chest and the hand. She recently filed a lawsuit claiming the administrators had ignored warnings about that boy the same day as the shooting. Again, now the mother indicted. So a new poll showing former President Trump is increasing his lead over Florida Governor Ron DeSantis in a potential Republican presidential primary. A Morning Consult poll showed Trump has 33 points on DeSantis, with 56% of the vote to DeSantis's 23. Trump's farthest lead since the poll began tracking it in December. Remember the con artist behind the Fire Festival? He's not done. He's promising there's going to be another Fire Festival coming up.
Oh, stop.
Billy McFarland posting on Twitter, Fire Festival 2 is finally happening. What, did Fire Festival even happen?
Oh, well, I mean, people went, but they got screwed.
McFarland is newly out of prison. He was released in 2022 after 4 of a 6-year sentence for charges surrounding his defrauding investors and scamming those who bought tickets. Earlier this month, he said on Twitter, His goal is to build the next media empire.
Oh,
In September, McFarlane told the New York Times he'd like to move into something involving technology for his big comeback. So I guess we're going to have tech in Fire Festival too.
Well, I'll watch it with popcorn popping, so that'll be fun.
And lastly, and I don't know who does this. What kind of crime is this, Nikki?
Mm-hmm.
What a waste of your time. The search may be over for whoever is stealing fire hydrant caps in Monterey County. Do they do it for the metal?
Like the
the yellow cap or the cap
that
goes on top of the fire hydrant, right?
Right.
Delray Oaks police have got their man, they say. They arrested Brian Vasu at his home, saying that he is linked to more than 600 thefts. They confirm that detectives found several items related to the crimes. The 44-year-old is behind bars on charges of grand theft and tampering with fire hydrants. I mean, why?
I don't understand why. I mean, but he has them, so he's not selling them. I mean, obviously they found him in his home. I don't know.
600 fire hydrant caps.
Well, it reminds me of the days and I don't know if it still happens. Kids in my day used to steal the car emblems off cars, like the
right.
like that. Is it something
like the Mercedes emblems or the Rolls Royce emblem, the BMW, whatever?
I mean, it's not. That's not. I can imagine
it's a fire hydrant cap. It doesn't have an emblem, I don't think.
I don't think so either. That's really weird. I have no idea.
I don't know if it's made of metal or concrete, but you know what? I mean, maybe it's someone with a vendetta against firefighters.
But I mean, what does that do to the firefighter?
I don't know.
That's just an odd story. But people steal anything nowadays. That's what that shows.
This show is crowdfunded. Thank you for being part of the Nikki Medoro Show community. We appreciate you spending time with us, chatting up a storm, and responding to the show. We couldn't do it without you. If you are so moved to financially support the show as well, you can find the Patreon and the PayPal links and more at theNikkiMedoroShow.com. I'm Kim McAllister on... Yeah, baby. It's the Nikki Medoro Show.
Thank you. And a big thank to Jay Siller for the $5 donation in the Super Chat, and Wes with a $10 Super Sticker. Thank you guys so very much. Okay, let's get into working. Okay, Kim, how old were you when you first started working?
15.
And what was the job?
I sold T-shirts at a little shop at the Santa Cruz Yacht Harbor.
And was it every day? Was it weekends? And did you do it when you were in school?
Yes. And then I worked at a little store in the Capitola Mall called Uptrends as well. I got my first bank account and I started working on weekends, but then at some points I would work after school just a couple days a week.
Right. Okay. And did you feel like it was too much to handle?
No.
Okay. Well, there are a number of states that are trying to ease child labor laws. And I think what's making a lot of people concerned is that the push is coming from, the restaurant or retail federations that some claim could be exploiting these kids for cheap labor. So lawmakers in 11 states have either passed or introduced laws to roll back the child labor laws. Those states have moved to extend working hours for children, eliminate work permit requirements, lower the age for teens to handle alcohol or work in hazardous industries. There's also been, according to the U.S. Department of Labor, a 69% increase in children employed illegally by companies since 2018. Now, that statistic could surprise you, of course, but if it's because they were 14, 15 and not allowed to work, and then you lower the age to 14 or 15, now it's no longer illegal.
Right.
So here in California, I looked it up. For minors under the age of 16, you could work up to 8 hours per day, 40 hours per week, 6 days per week, but that's only if school is not in session. During the school year, 3 hours per school day, but only 18 hours per week. So you could work 6 days.
And doesn't your school have to sign off on that as well?
I'm pretty sure that there's something like that you have to do. And then if you're 16 and 17 years old, you can bump it up to 8 hours. Actually, it stays the same. It stays the same if you're 16 or 17 during the non-school week. So 8 hours a day, 48 hours per week, a maximum of 6 days. During the school year, though, 4 hours per day, with 28 combined hours of work and school allowed per week. And then as far as how late you can work for minors under 16, you can only work until 7 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock during the summer. If you're 16 and 17, you can work 10 o'clock at night and then 12:30 in the morning during the summer. I don't have a problem with that, but let's just say I had a kid that was under the age of 16 that wanted to work more. And let's shorten this to school year. Okay. Let's have it compete for school. Okay. School time, attention on school, and those sorts of things. Let me know in the comments. What do you think about easing some of these restrictions? I asked you at the beginning of the show, how early did you guys, at what age did you guys work? And do you think that it's okay to relax some of these laws? And some
I
of you
didn't get to ask. I didn't get to ask you that question. What was your first job and when did you start working?
So I started working when I was 15. I did have to get it signed off by my parents and my school. I don't remember the hours, but I was a hostess at the original Pancake House.
Oh, and look at you.
Yeah, and I believe it was a breakfast place, so I think I really only worked the weekend. So I don't even think I worked during the school year. And then when I was in school, I worked at Blockbuster Video. And this was like 16, 17 years old. I worked in restaurants as hostesses. I mean, I think Blockbuster was the first job I really had that was after school. Otherwise, I was probably on the weekend. And I liked having the extra money.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the reason why I think that this can kind of be an interesting debate is, do you think kids have enough time to work more hours? Because I could make the argument they waste a buttload of time online, on social media, getting into trouble, doing whatever. On the other hand, my husband always has a saying. He's like, your job is school. Like, that's all we ask is for you to focus on school, get your homework done. That's all you really have to do. I mean, everything else is kind of extracurricular, right? Mm-hmm. On top of that. And so that's what you need to do. Eric had written in at the beginning of the show, had my first job working Taco Bell for a summer at 14. I look at my son who's that age and I can't imagine him working, nor would I want him to. Why, Eric? Why would you not want your kid working? Did it hurt you in some way that I'm not catching? Like, what would be the problem, let's say, of someone, let's say 13, 14, so freshman, sophomore, working?
I think not all kids are, mature at the same time. So where Julia is perfectly capable of getting a job and competent and, is like a little mini grown-up in a lot of circumstances, not all.
Of course.
And sometimes it's hard to forget that she's only 13, right? Jacob is probably going to take a little bit longer to mature. At 13, I probably wouldn't hire him, right? I mean, it's just one of those things where he's going to be amazing, but at 13, probably not ready to work. So maybe it's just different for all kids. And my worry is that if you change the rules like this, that there's always someone who's going to take advantage, right? That it's not just, does a kid want to get a job and can a kid work on weekends or whatever, but it's then some horrible family who only had, who'd never wanted kids in the first place, sends their kid to work so that they can get money out of them. I don't know. it's a flashback to like, abusing kids. And I don't know.
You could see it could be a slippery slope, right?
Yeah,
it definitely can. So let's see. In the Midwest, Ohio legislators reintroduced a bill to extend the working hours for teens year round from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. So no matter whether you're in school or not, you can work till 9 o'clock. Minnesota introduced a bill to roll back requirements that bar 16 and 17-year-olds from working in construction. So this was a great example of something where, on one hand, I'm like, that's a pretty dangerous job, right? On the other hand, I would not necessarily 16, but 17-year-olds, introducing them to a trade when some of them may not be college bound. Right. I could see that being okay. In Iowa, they're considering a bill that would allow exemptions to the state law prohibiting children aged 14 to 17 from working in dangerous industries such as roofing and mining.
Oh, no. Mm-mm.
Yeah, no. Arkansas passed a law that eliminates age verification requirements for children under 16 to prove their age to get a job. So you don't even have to prove it, you just say it. Oh, where was the one? There was one that allowed them to serve alcohol. Yeah, there was one that was allowing them to. Oh, here in New Hampshire, lawmakers passed a bill that lowers the age limit for students to bus tables where alcohol is served from 15 to 14 years old and increases the hours most 16 and 17-year-olds can work. In New Jersey, teens no longer need parental consent to obtain work permits. Now, is this going to exploit teens? Because there was one guy by the name of Dusty Johnson. He's a congressman from South Dakota. And this is what he said. He said, if a high school student can play in a football game until 9 p.m. Or play video games late into the evening, they should be allowed to hold a job if they wish to. His act provides a reasonable accommodation for hardworking young Americans. As our nation faces an unprecedented labor shortage, flexibility is needed more than ever. Your thoughts? I mean, he has a point. He does have a point.
Yes, that's true. I think Eric Kennedy has a point as well. And I mean, I think it's kid to kid. He says the reason he didn't want his son to work, he's going to be working for the rest of his life. Why make him work now? There's something to, okay, let them have their childhood. Don't make them go do these things. On the other hand, you hear kids that go to college and can't function. So I've got a daughter who's super independent.
Right.
She can walk into a grocery store, buy stuff, and do everything on her own just fine. She can work. She can pump gas. She's 13. She can do all these things. She's not going to be the kid that goes off to college or goes off to live her life and isn't able to function. And I love that. On the other hand, she learned all this stuff really early. So is there something to giving them that idyllic childhood where they don't have anything to worry about or any responsibilities or anywhere to be, and those things aren't hanging over their head? I got to work. I've got to work. I have to maintain my work schedule and do all these things and be that responsible mini grown-up. I guess I understand both ways.
Right. And what I would say is, how many times do we hear or read a story about a kid who has who I'm not going to say lemonade stand, but, had a poop picker upper business, right? Or a lawn mowing business. And they went to their neighbors and they're like, hey, I can do this, a paper route, right?
Yeah.
We'd hear about this kids working all the time. And sometimes we're like, oh, this person's going to be a CEO someday. Yeah. Now, all of a sudden, you take the person out from the entrepreneurship and you put them into a traditional kind of employee role. And it seems that they could be exploited. And I think you make the point the best, Kim, is it's definitely going to have to be based on the child, the teenager, and what kind of job it is. Do I want to see kids working in sweatshops? No, but I was reading some comments on the stories, and a lot of people are saying, I love how people are sitting on phones, probably made in child sweatshops in another country, bitching about children being forced to work too young.
As we've talked about with Girl Scout cookies, kids picking, harvesting the palm oil.
Yeah.
And then the palm oil used in the Girl Scout cookies, here in America and other developed nations where girls are doing activities and fun things, basically on the backs of the kids that are scaling these palm trees and harvesting this oil, and they're doing really dangerous work. So there's still a problem with child labor in other countries.
Exactly. Now in Iowa, one of the states that's loosening these laws, half of Iowans support loosening the law. I think it's like 40 something, 42% oppose it, 8% are not sure. Republicans more than Democrats are in favor of doing it. I feel like on one hand, there is a way to do this that still protects the child. Yeah. It's not as if we're just sending kids out and they're going to work 40 hours a week and on top of that do school and what have you. I mean, there can obviously still be protections. Vilma says academic always pays the price for working. I could see that happening. Although, let me ask this. Do you think there's enough time given how much time a lot of kids, not all kids, but a lot of kids waste zoning out on YouTube, zoning out online, on social media? But is that part of childhood? You should be able to waste your time.
So Julia's 13 and has a job.
Right.
She works not for money, but in trade for horseback riding lessons.
Right.
On Sundays. And she has learned things that she would not have learned if she didn't have this job. Like when she shows up on time and her horseback riding coach and now boss says, if you show up on time, you're late.
Yeah.
I need for you to be here early so you can put your stuff away, get yourself situated, and you're ready to work when you're ready. You know, when I need you. She's learning.
Mm-hmm.
She's learned things about having to work fast, about being paid versus just being a volunteer.
Mm-hmm.
You know, about how about having a work ethic. These things to be learned at 13, I think that's a big deal.
Yeah.
And I don't think it has made her academic career suffer any because it's only on the weekends. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think so. I think it's great for her. I think she's learning something that can't necessarily be taught in a classroom.
Right.
Lori raises an interesting point. Aren't parents who force their kids to do sports in middle school through high school and say it's for scholarships, forcing them to work at their possible future job? I mean, yeah, like if you work in a job and it exposes you, and let's talk 16, 17-year-olds working construction.
Yeah.
And it exposes you to a trade, and then exposes you not just to the trade, but to the type of people you'd be working with. Maybe you learn, oh, look, yeah, I've worked in construction, or I've worked in X, Y, and Z. And yeah, I've got a house, I've got a boat.
Right.
It might not be the C-suite, but I make damn good money. Right. I was watching something and they're like, if you want a house and a boat, be a plumber. Do these trades. You get paid buku bucks. But it's not as glamorous, right? As saying, oh, I'm a doctor or I'm a lawyer or whatever. But it pays good money. And sometimes kids need to be exposed to that instead of just being exposed to, you have to go to a 4-year, a college. You have to get your master's because that's the only way that you're going to get this career and meet these type of people so you can make enough money to be able to live in a place like the Bay Area. Not necessarily.
I mean, it could serve as...
Yeah, go ahead.
It could serve as a motivator. If you have a kid who gets a job as a bussing tables and they're looking at that and they're thinking, okay, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. So that means now I understand what they mean about getting my studies together, doing what I need to do. But to Lori's point, I would say the kids that are forced to do sports aren't the ones passionate about it. They're probably not the ones getting scholarships because they're the ones that are just there because they have to be, not because they are, that's their thing. That's what they love. I don't know.
Chris says it's a desperate attempt for labor. Now, this is another concern that people have is obviously when we talk about, let's just take McDonald's, right? Like the burger flipper job, and they're being held by adults who want to make more money because they can't afford. And people like that type of job was never meant to be a full-time living wage job, but they're hiring adults. And I've made this argument before. Then have an age restriction on the type of jobs that you hire for certain positions. So if you need a burger flipper and you don't intend on that person making a living wage, then don't hire someone that needs a living wage. I would assume then hire a child, right? Hire a teenager to do that job. Obviously that would be age discrimination and things like that for hiring, but that's basically what they're saying. Calvin says summer, full-time and part-time during school. School is the focus, not the job. Absolutely. Do you think 9 o'clock is too late to work for a 14, 15, 16-year-old?
It's pushing it for me. I like to have everybody in the house by 8:30 and getting ready for bed and making sure homework's done and such. But no, I think that's okay. I think that's okay.
My daughter is in cheerleading and right before competition, sometimes it goes to like 8:45. By the time we get home, it's like 9 o'clock. And I'm like, dude, this is way too late. Because they're going to want to unwind. Oh, I don't want to go straight to bed. All those crap that you hear all the time. And it's hard. It's there needs to be downtime. There needs to be time to decompress. I just worry. The reason why I'm kind of torn on this topic is I also think that kids nowadays not all of them, a lot of them have too much free time on their hands, that they're not utilizing it in a way that is productive, and that there is a lesson to be learned in the workforce. Now, I don't want them working in dangerous situations. I don't want them on the assembly line. I don't want them cleaning machinery, right? I don't want them doing those sorts of things. somebody was saying, oh my God, and they're in front of that very hot grill at fast food places. I'm like, come on.
There should be some industries where it's not child labor is not allowed. But as Jammer DC says, a paper route, when people actually got the paper delivered. Very common. My husband had a paper route, worked at that. That was his first job, and he mowed lawns. So yeah, I think that's good. He got up really early before school to deliver the papers.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
Talk about, times of working that really affect you. I would argue a paper route probably has more of an impact on the energy of that child throughout the day than a job, till 9 o'clock at night. You tell a kid to wake up and because of their body, their natural body clock, you tell a child to wake up at what, 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning to get that paper out. That's going to stay with them throughout the day.
Do you think that you see signs all over the place, workers wanted, we need help, not enough staff, please be patient with
Nobody
us
wants to work.
Yeah, because we don't have enough staff and so wait times are longer. Businesses have closed because they can't hire enough workers. Do you think maybe a turn to younger people is saying we don't have enough of a population to staff places, so we're going to change the rules to let you guys work?
I would say it's more along the lines of there's not enough people that want to work for what we want to pay them. And so when you go into a business and you see adults that have adult bills and mortgages and children of their own, the argument is better made for higher wages when you're dealing with an adult group of employees. But if those same people walk into a business and they see a bunch of teenagers, you're like, we can't raise wages. And they just see a bunch of kids. They're like, yeah, you don't need to raise wages. I think this is a way of stopping the increase in wages. I do. I think that it is a way of getting cheap labor. You can pay kids less. You can justify, let me say this. You can justify paying kids less because they're often supported by their parents. When you have an adult workforce within your company, it is a very hard sell to the rest of society to say, I can't pay them more. Then your business model doesn't work. That's what I always say. If you can't pay people enough and you're hiring them full-time, not part-time, you're hiring full-time people, which means the working hours, you want them at your place of business and you want to pay them poverty wages, your business model doesn't work. That's it. That a cost of business is employees. And either you have too many employees or you don't make enough money within your company. But if it's a bunch of teenagers, it's a much, much easier sell to people.
But then there's what Murphy has to say, which is that her work experience when she was a teen,
there you go,
ended up, leading her to what her college major was and then her job later on. So
yeah. And I mean, and the whole worry about it interfering with academics is a good point, because even though I wish that people didn't put so much pressure on kids to get into these brand name colleges and what have you, it is still happening to a large degree. And so add this onto taking AP courses and having to get more than a 4.0 and everything that we've always talked about. And now these kids are going to work. And now these kids are going to put on their college resumes that they also had a job, which might also be an added bonus. So you have to compete. So you have to work. It's just, I'm surprised that kids are so freaking stressed out. Kim says, filled in for my neighbors when they were on vacation on their paper route. That was rough work on a bike, heavy with papers in the rain, your own rain bags and rubber bands. It was brutal. Yeah. I never had a paper route. I know people that had a paper route. It was never anything I wanted to do. Cheryl says, my ice skater daughter said, I have a job since she trained 6 days a week and competed. She now makes her money as an elite coach and she loves it. Yeah. That works. That works for me. I don't know. I just feel like if kids are getting into trouble, put them to work. And it doesn't have to be, sweat labor, like hard labor or anything like that. Put them to work. Give them some money in their pocket. Give them some skin in the game and how they spend their money. Letting kids just be like, oh, they're kids, go enjoy life. And then they're getting into a bunch of trouble. It's going to be on a case by case basis, but we'll see. But again, I don't know how many kids here in California would be impacted. I don't know if California, well, I know, I Googled it. I'm not seeing anything here in California to change the laws that we currently have, but I could see that if these things pass in other states, that there might be an effort among some circles to make it happen here, but we'll see. Okay, when we come back after Kim's news, I want to talk about the Ebony Alert. Have you guys heard about this? So it's a California bill that would create an alert system for missing Black women and Black youth. My question to you is, do you think adding another alert category would work? And two, if many of the people who are reported missing, so the statistic is in 2021, 38% of people who were reported missing in the United States were Black. That's more than double the Black population of about 14%. Will it dilute people's attention? Should we as a society just demand more attention being on these cases, give it more attention? Or do you think an Ebony Alert is a way of doing that? Which do you think needs to come first? Also, we'll touch a little bit on Elizabeth Holmes. She lost her plea to stay out of prison, which I don't mean to laugh, but it was quite rich for her to try and sell that. We'll talk a little bit about music. I wanted to talk about this yesterday. Do you mind spending time in line to get concert tickets in order to avoid those bots that ruin the experience for people on Ticketmaster? And how much would you pay for NFL Sunday Ticket? YouTube. We're on YouTube. Is the new distributor. They got it from DirecTV. I'll tell you how much they're charging for it. And is it too much for you? That's all coming up on the Nikki Medoro Show.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
The Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg is filing a lawsuit to keep House Republicans from interfering in his criminal case against former President Trump. He is asking a judge to invalidate subpoenas Congressman Jim Jordan has or plans to issue as part of an investigation of the DA's handling of this Trump case. Bragg last week charged Trump with 34 felonies related to attempts to hush money payments during the 2016 presidential election. Police say the AR-15 style rifle used in yesterday's mass shooting at a Louisville, Kentucky bank was purchased legally. They add the 25-year-old gunman was an employee at Old National Bank and bought the weapon at a local shop last week, I should say, not auto shop. Police body cam footage of that event is expected to be released soon. The United States is reaffirming its support for Ukraine following leaks of U.S. intelligence. Ukraine's foreign minister said Secretary of State Antony Blinken assured him in a phone call that Washington is fully behind the effort to win that war. The statement comes after a leaked report showed U.S. intelligence officials were doubtful that Ukraine could pull off an anticipated counteroffensive and retake the Russian-occupied areas. Some Democratic-led states are stockpiling abortion pills. This after a judge's decision to effectively halt the sale of a popular pregnancy-ending pill. The Justice Department is appealing the pill ruling out of Texas. The U.S. Postal Service wants to raise the price of stamps to offset inflation. The Postal Service recently announced it is seeking approval to bump up the price of first-class mail stamps by 3 cents. That would make it 66 cents. An expelled Tennessee lawmaker back on the job. Justin Jones was one of 2 black Democrats kicked out of the Tennessee House last week for protesting gun violence on the floor after a deadly school shooting at a private Christian school. The Nashville city voted unanimously to reinstate him. And Writers Guild of America members will start voting today on whether to authorize a strike. A strike could seriously affect film and TV production across the nation. The Writers Guild has begun negotiating a new contract with the Alliance of Motion Picture and TV Producers. The alliance represents the 9 largest studios in Hollywood. So we'll see if they come to a deal. Speaking of movies and stuff like that, the Super Mario Brothers movie continues to scoop up cash at the box office. The film earned more than $20 million Monday at North American theaters. Comes after it took first place in its debut, making more than $200 million over the Easter weekend.
Did you watch it?
No, I haven't gone yet. Have you?
So we went on Sunday after Easter.
Okay.
And I totally fell asleep we went to the drive-ins, which is always, that's the worst for me, is if I go to the drive-ins, I'll just fall asleep all the time.
Okay.
And yeah, I fell asleep. My husband stayed awake. The kids seemed to have liked it. I mean, I stayed awake for like half of it, and then I was like, this is boring. It was okay. I kept thinking, turn down the radio, because remember Tim Seco was saying it's very, very loud.
Right.
But so I don't have an opinion on it because I fell asleep. And then when I woke up, I was like, how was it? And James said it sucked. So
okay. A mediocre, what did he say? A mediocre movie, a candy box of noise and color.
Yeah.
Isn't that beautiful?
It was really colorful. I'll say that. And they had a lot of cameos. Jack Black's song, apparently, all the articles I keep reading, it's eligible for an Oscar. So apparently it's a very catchy song. I'll have to go back and listen to it because I don't remember. And then today's headline about it was, the reason it's so successful is because it's anti-woke. These Republicans really need another talking point because they can't stop. It's
whatever.
Like, oh, it's so freaking dumb. So yeah, whatever.
All right, where's Nugget?
Nugget.
Pet owners have another reason to celebrate their favorite animal companions because April 11th marks National Pet Day across the United States.
My mom texted me. She's like, give Nugget a big hug for me.
Yes. Pet owners are encouraged to give their cats extra, they say catnip. You give a cat catnip, and their dogs extra treats, and spend some time bonding with their bunnies. That's the way the story is written. Whatever.
Well,
it's National Pet Day. Celebrate as you will.
This dog is freaking spoiled. I give him I mean, he is just, last night, he's like, I got him this bone. And I mean, this bone, he loves this bone. He gnaws on it. And so he's at the end of the couch and it's so loud. And I'm like, Nugget, stop already. Picks up his bone. I'm sitting next to my husband. And he just walks right over me and plops right in between us and just starts gnawing on the bone some more. So spoiled ass dog. That's all I have.
I'll conclude this with kind of a dream come true for this NFL standout, Kayvon Thibodeau. He is giving back to his family. He's a linebacker selected in the first round of the 2022 NFL draft by the New York Giants. He took a portion of his 4-year, $31+ million contract, and he bought his mom a house.
Oh, I love that. I love stories like that. I love stories like that.
Shanta Loyce gets a house. They caught the moment on video as she toured her new California home for the first time. He said he wanted the video to be an inspiration for those working to provide for their families. And his mom says the gift is a blessing.
That's awesome. Good job. Good job, son. There you go.
This show is crowdfunded. We thank you for being here with us, and we thank you for supporting the show in any way. That could be clicking the like button. It could be financially supporting it as well. You will find the Patreon and the PayPal links at thenikkimedoroshow.com. And of course, the super chat function here on YouTube is live and ready to roll. I'm Kim McAllister on the Nikki Medoro Show.
This is the second half of the Nikki Medoro Show. Thank you all for joining us. And thank you to Colors of the Wind for a $20 donation to the Super Chat. Wes gave us $10 earlier and Jay Siller gave us $5. Just look for the $sign under the chat and you can do it even if you're watching on the replay. And of course, donate to our Patreon, like Kim mentioned, thenikkimedoroshow.com, where you'll find links to everything you need to know on how to support the Nikki Medoro Show. Okay. So, Kim McAllister,
yes, ma'am.
There is news that there's a bill actually to create a new type of alert. Now, here in California, we have the Amber Alert, and then we have the Silver Alert. The Silver Alert is for missing elderly people.
Yeah.
And now they want to create what they're calling the Ebony Alert. Now, it would address a problem where, and we've talked about this before, where Black and brown people don't seem to get the media attention when they go missing or when there's a crime to solve as it's cute white women, like the missing woman, white woman syndrome, right? We've talked about that, the Gabby Petito case, things like that. Do you think something like this is needed? Let me know in the comments. Because on one hand, I'm like, okay, that's no problem. But on the other hand, is it really going to change the attention that society and even more importantly, law enforcement gives simply by throwing the information up on like the freeway signs or something like that?
I'm really torn on this one.
Yeah.
Because part of me thinks that I have seen, the way we handle missing persons cases.
Of course.
And it does seem often like people of color get less of the reporting attention.
Mm-hmm.
So because of that, I've always tried to not go the other way, but make sure everyone gets equal,
of course,
coverage.
Right.
However, part of me thinks that what's going to change if you have an Ebony Alert? The people who are not going to cover your case, it just makes it easier for them to not even click on the picture if they know it's an Ebony Alert. On the other hand, it also may make it so that I don't know. I just feel like we're separating ourselves more. Like you have a white people alert and a black people alert. Like, right. I don't know if we need to differentiate. It's missing people. People are missing. It's not a black person missing or a white person missing. It's a missing child, a missing mother, a missing grandfather, a missing whoever. It's a missing person. And so to delineate that by race, part of me feels like that's more, I don't know, kind of segregating than necessary. I'm torn. I don't know. I'm torn.
Yeah, here's the thing. I'm just playing devil's advocate because I told all of your concerns are valid. All of a sudden now we hear, we're segregating each other when we want to give something specific to black or brown people, right? It's like, why do you got to bring race into it? Why do you have such a problem with it? Did you have a problem with the age? We do a silver alert versus the amber alert. But I agree with you. My concern is not just that people aren't giving enough attention, but also how these cases are described. So one of the problems that led to this bill is, let's say, for instance, a 16-year-old black girl goes missing and she's being trafficked. Sometimes she'll be described as a juvenile prostitute, which does not exist. You cannot at age 16 give consent to sell your body. You are being trafficked. Right. But it's this idea of specifically black children being viewed as older and less at risk and less of a victim versus their white counterparts. But that seems like a societal problem that I don't know if an Ebony Alert can solve. That's my concern. So I'm just concerned that there's going to be so many alerts because now we're going to classify all these as under the umbrella that people are not going to even click on it anymore because it's like, somebody else.
Well, do you have an Ebony Alert and then all other races get lumped into a regular Amber Alert? Or do we go ahead and break out every race and say, there's an Ebony Alert. There's I don't know what your name would be for an Asian missing person alert. Right. There's a white person alert. There's a Native American Indian woman alert. I mean, I don't know what then do we have. I mean, so when you say Ebony Alert, my senses are now heightened. I'm making sure I'm taking an extra look at all the African American folks walking around. Right. Maybe it has that power to go, okay, initially it's, was for another reason, but now it helps me hone in on people and make sure they're not the missing person. Yeah. Maybe. I don't know, but it just seems segregated. It seems too segregated to me.
So under the proposal, a law enforcement agency could request an alert to be activated if the missing person is between 12 and 25 years old. The top age does concern me a little bit, but okay. The second is they may have been a victim of trafficking or abduction. Their physical safety is endangered. They suffer from a physical or mental disability, and then some other factors. The vice chair of the California Legislative Black Caucus said black children are classified as runaways more often than white children, which results in fewer resources being dedicated to locating them. And like I mentioned, last year, 36% of those missing cases were black youth and women. I think it's just, obviously, and when we hear about abductions and trafficking, time is of the essence. The more time that passes, the less likely you'll be able to find them or find them safely or alive. But I guess what you said there, Kim, really does stick out to me was if you got an Ebony Alert because you want to be more fair with your attention regarding these sort of cases, that you'll make a concerted effort to pay attention to it versus it being another Black person involved in an abduction and it kind of gets lost in the news shuffle, as they say.
Would news agencies be in this law? Would they have to have, a certain number of Ebony Alerts they report every year?
Oh,
or a percentage of them, like, 9 out of, because we don't report every abduction.
No, of course.
Every time something comes over my desk, I don't report it. If it's a parental abduction, or if it's not necessarily in our area, or I don't think it's applicable to this audience, I might not report it. It doesn't mean I'm not reporting it because of race. It means we're here in the Bay Area, we may not be as affected by something in, I don't know, say Southern California or Nevada or whatever it is. Or sometimes it's a case where it looks like a familial thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not like a kid's ripped out of the mother's arms at the grocery store by a stranger. Those go to the top of my list, right?
Daphne Webb was a little girl in Oakland that you'll remember the story. I'm sure. Kim.
I do. I know
she was in the back seat of her car. Her grandmother, who I guess had dementia or something, was also in the car. Her dad goes into the store, comes back out. Daphne Webb is gone. They never found this child. The dad ended up committing suicide. We don't know. Obviously, we just don't know what happened. Obviously, people are just thinking that she died. And I remember I was a reporter at KGO at the time. And I think a year had passed. And I don't know why, but this little girl's face, I mean, it's embedded in my mind.
Such a mystery. Yeah.
And it was like, and so I remember I called Oakland PD and I was like, what's up with this case? And they're like, it's still an active case. We're still looking. I think this was before the father had committed suicide. And it was just one of those cases. Like if this was Madeleine McCain or, Jean-Benet Ramsey or fill in the blank little white girl, would there still be documentaries? Would there still be, whodunits? Would there still be DNA cases of people claiming to be this person? No, there's nothing. There's just this cute picture of little Daphne Webb embedded in some people's minds with this question of whatever happened to this little girl. Now, why didn't it get the attention? Maybe there's things in the case we just don't know. Maybe the dad was a suspect, but they didn't have enough evidence on him and now he's gone. But this little girl was taken. And I can only imagine that if you changed the color of her skin, this would have been plastered on everything from ABC 7 to CNN News.
Yeah.
Right? But it's not. And we never found the little girl. And so it's that case sticks out to me. And when I heard about this Ebony Alert, I was like, well, maybe it'll make people care. But I kind of also feel like if you didn't care before, if you lumped these sorts of cases in with each other as runaways, juvenile prostitutes, or fill in the blank, no Ebony Alert is going to change your mind on that. Now, if we, of course, and we've heard this also, Kim, some people like with Amber Alerts, why didn't they issue an Amber Alert? And police have to explain, well, we didn't have a license plate. We didn't have enough information to alert, to put up on the overhead signs and things like that. I can imagine some people will be calling out if this does become law. Why didn't you put out an Ebony Alert? And I think sometimes the answer sadly might be, well, we can't do it so often or no one will pay attention because so many of these people go missing.
Speaking of which, we have this case right now, and this is from ABC 7. This little girl, 5 years old, was taken from North Carolina and apparently brought to Northern California. Her name is Faith Lee Harris. She was taken from North Carolina by her grandmother's ex-husband. He's an 84-year-old man. And they think that he likely fled to California. So they're calling it not an Amber Alert, but an endangered missing advisory. And it was targeted to Butte, San Bernardino, Riverside, Los Angeles counties. But yeah, they're looking for this little girl. Her name is Faith Lee Harris. So Just to note that.
Okay. Well, and again, I mean, and I do hope they find her, but it's a little white girl, right?
Yep.
So I mean, how many little black girls in other states could be kidnapped by a relative or whatever, brought to California? We don't hear about those.
No.
Right. That's the thing. And the truth of the matter is, yes, a missing person is a missing person is a missing person. They do need to be discerning on how they set these alerts, because again, if your phone keeps going off, you turn your phone off, right? It becomes too much. But I don't know. Do you think that this bill is gonna pass? Do you think they'll actually create the Ebony Alert?
I think it will. I think that they will create the Ebony Alert. I think there's going to be a lot of people pushing back on it a little bit, but in the end, I think they'll say, okay, it looks like there's the person who is pushing for it is an African-American lawmaker.
Right.
So they'll probably say, well, if this community wants that, then what's the problem with giving them that?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so if they feel like it'll make a difference, then okay, let's do it. Why not?
Yeah. Well, but again, I think the why not is because it could dilute attention. It could just, would it just be better if society just changed, and that's a taller order, of course. Elizabeth Holmes is going to go to prison. How do you feel about this? Okay. So I saw her now, Elizabeth Holmes. She was from Theranos. She lied to a bunch of people to get their money. She was found guilty. She tried to play the "I'm just became a mom" card, even though she knew her ass was going to prison probably when she got pregnant and decided to have these children. Her kids are like 1 and newborn or something like that. Like she just had a baby. So she has 2 kids, very young children. She's sentenced to like 11 and a half years. I looked it up, Kim. Under federal law, prisoners serve 85% of their sentences, which means that she could end up serving a little over 9.5 years. So her kids could be like 9 and 10 years old. I can't imagine. Being away from my kids. That is the only thing that my heart kind of like bends for this woman, because she's a liar. She totally lied. And this whole, I didn't know Sonny Bowl no. You knew what you were doing. Stop.
I don't feel bad for her. I feel bad for the kids.
Yeah.
The kids. But maybe she's not the best influence anyway. So I don't know. Today, though, it was decided by a judge that while she appeals her conviction, a lot of people are let out of prison until their appeal is decided. She is not going to be let out of prison or jail. No. She has to stay behind bars while her appeal, because she's a flight risk, but because the judge said there really isn't a very good chance that you're going to win your appeal.
Right.
So stay in jail.
So stay. Yes.
Sayonara, Holmes. That's it.
Sayonara, Holmes. Karen says it's about time. She won't serve more than a year. They'll suspend it. I don't think so. Pardon me. I don't think so. She really, I think, didn't help herself with her arguments. The evidence was very overwhelming, where she tried to play it both ways, where she was very much involved and then not very involved. And obviously she lost her case. I do agree with Kim, though. I think it's sad for the kids, although many of you are saying they're better. Colors of the wind. Maybe her child's better off. Look how she turned out. Yeah. Again, Kim, we were talking about the Ebony Alert. You talk about privilege. This woman, based on, I will also say this, her sex, gender, and the color of her skin probably got a hell of a lot farther than a lot of people would have with the same type of thing. It's like, oh my God, and her age, all of these things, like check. The tech community just loved it. Oh my God, we have a woman, white woman, and she's young. So, oh my God, she could be like the next Steve Jobs. So we're just going to throw not just money, like military contracts at this woman. It was insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. Eric said she ripped off the wrong rich people. She'll stay in jail. Yeah. It's just, it blows my mind, but I don't like to, root for families to be broken up or separated, but I'm glad that she's going to face punishment, because she should. She absolutely should. Okay, let's squeeze this in. Did you see Metallica on Jimmy Kimmel? I have a picture. I thought I had a picture. Yeah, here we go. There they are. I can't play you, obviously, any music from it. But they apparently are going to be doing a residency, quote unquote, with the band. They have a new album out, and so they've been playing some music from it. I love the fact that Metallica, because obviously Bay Area roots here, a great band. So they're launching okay. So Metallica, gosh darn, I have so many pop-ups. So the album is called 72 Seasons. It's out this Friday. They're going to be celebrating their 12th studio album, including a Thursday night, one night only global premiere cinema event. That's going to be, obviously, you could stream it probably online or whatever. They also launched a marching band competition where they're offering more than $150,000 in prizes. It's called For Whom the Band Tolls, which is a playoff, obviously, their song For Whom the Bell Tolls. The national challenge to marching bands of all levels includes the challenge to create the most exciting, unique, and impressive performance from some of the band's most beloved songs. So you take a Metallica song and you give it the old spice. There's all kinds of categories. Among the songs available to cover are Enter Sandman, Fade to Black, Master of Puppets, Wherever I May Roam, One, Sad But True. One was the only song I could play on the guitar. Fuel, Seek and Destroy, Lux Eterna, The Forgiven, For Whom the Bell Tolls, Hit the Lights, and Creeping Death. So if you have a band member in your family, you can look that up. I know you have a tuba in your room. Maybe your husband can hop back on the tuba, Kim, and try to compete for that.
Well, Julia's going to Disneyland this week with the high school band.
Oh, that's right.
And the junior high band. She plays the flute in the marching band and the oboe in the concert band. So there you go.
There you go. You should pass along this information to your band daughter. Square says Metallica used to do flash concerts at Tower Records on Blossom Hill Road in the 90s. I would have loved to seen that. The last time I saw Metallica, was it the night before? Concert before the Super Bowl? That might have been the last time I saw them. But yeah, they're awesome. Are you a Metallica fan, Kim McAllister? I don't know. Do you do much digging?
I'm not. I wouldn't say a fan. I don't dislike them, but neither do I seek them out.
All right. Okay, so Kim's going to do some quick news. When we come back, though, kind of in the vein of music and getting tickets and being able to see your favorite bands. What do you think about going back to the days where you had to stand outside Tower Records or go to the box office, right? And wait for tickets, maybe wait overnight, maybe wait a couple of days. So Maggie Rogers is an artist and she did just that. She's like, you know what? I'm tired of the bots on Ticketmaster. I'm only going to sell my tickets in person. And so a bunch of people went out there. They waited in line, and there was this reporter or this writer for Engadget that went out there as well. So I'll give you some of the details, and you guys let me know in the comments. Would you rather go back to the days of waiting in line? And if you can remember, what's the longest that you've ever waited, or what's the biggest hoop that you jumped through to get tickets to either a festival or a concert that you wanted to go to? And we'll also squeeze in the NFL Sunday ticket. It's going to get apparently costlier, but when you compare it to DirecTV, maybe not that much more expensive. And is it worth it when a lot of people are responding to the news by saying, I'll just continue to steal it because that's what I was doing already. All right, we'll do all that after Kim's news. This is the Nikki Medoro Show.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
Brittany Griner writing a memoir set to be released next year about her imprisonment in Russia. The women's basketball star was arrested in a Moscow airport for allegedly carrying hashish oil in her luggage in February of 2022. Griner called it an unfathomable period in her life in a social media post announcing the book. She was finally released in a prisoner swap between the U.S. and Russia in December. The book's publisher, Alfred Knopf, says that Griner will detail her experiences navigating what they call the Byzantine Russian legal system. Take this with a grain of salt, this story, because of the analysis and from where it came, okay? But apparently, there have been about 32,000 fewer legal abortions than what's typical in the 6 months since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. That's 32,000 fewer legal abortions. The analysis comes from the Society of Family Planning. There were about 5,000 fewer abortions recorded per month. That's a drop of about 6%, according to this group. In the 13 states that also established bans on abortions, they fell by more than 95%. In others, they ticked up a bit, suggesting those living in states with more restrictions are traveling to get the procedure. And again, that all comes from the Society of Family Planning. A bill that establishes protections for people seeking or providing legal reproductive care in the state of Washington is one step closer to becoming law. It's called the SHIELD Law, and it passed the Washington State Senate Monday after passing their House with bipartisan support last month. The bill now heads to Governor Jay Inslee's desk for signature. So, wrangling over the whole city council situation in Los Angeles. 6 months after leaked audio revealed Los Angeles city council members using racist language, one of those members is still in office and considering a run for re-election. What? Kevin De Leon just survived a 4th recall attempt. He says his focus continues to be on the Angelenos in his district. De Leon has ignored calls for his resignation. He says if his constituents want him to run for re-election, he will do that, but that time will tell. Wow. Meanwhile, State Assemblyman Miguel Santiago has announced he'll be running for De Leon's seat in 2024.
Wow. I mean, part of me agrees, like, you know, if you stay in office and you can do your job, because remember, people were protesting, people couldn't get work done because they just kept saying resign, you know, step down. So if you're stopping progress, that's a problem. Yeah. On the other hand, if after all the news, you run for re-election and you get reelected, the people have spoken. So he has a point.
People have spoken. He's survived recall attempts. So you know, come on. I don't know. Grocery store chain Whole Foods is closing their San Francisco flagship store, supposedly temporarily. The Amazon subsidiary in the city's mid-market neighborhood shut its doors Monday after being open for a year, and they're doing this because of rampant crime in the area. They don't think it's safe for their employees to get to and from work, or safe for their customers either. San Francisco Standard reporting this Whole Foods location reduced operating hours last year because of theft and changed its bathrooms when employees started finding syringes and pipes in there. Meanwhile, Starbucks stores around the city have been removing indoor and outdoor seating. The Seattle-based coffee giant not giving a clear explanation as to why, but employees think Starbucks is eliminating seating due to homeless people and people with mental illnesses in the surrounding areas. So some things changing in San Francisco. Eddie Van Halen's custom Kramer electric guitar is going up for auction. It was used in the iconic Hot for Teacher music video. That guitar has a minimum bid of $1.8 million and an estimated value of $2.3 million. If it sells within that range, it will be one of the top 10 most expensive guitars ever auctioned off. You know who could buy it, though? This guy, an Eastern Iowa man who won the $40 million jackpot from the Iowa lottery on April 1st. He thought it was all a big April Fool's joke. No, for real, dude. 61-year-old Earl Loppe opted for the $21 million lump sum and plans to invest to help his family for generations. He also says he'll be donating to several children's hospitals in his area. Okay, that's nice. I like when someone nice wins the lottery. Donating to children's hospitals, you deserved it, pal. Nobody feels bad that you won.
I agree, exactly.
This report is sponsored by you. This show is funded. We need your help. Yes, stick the thumbs up. And yes, go to theNikkiMedoroShow.com. Check out the website. Check out the Patreon and the PayPal links. And if you can help us out, that's great. But we are so appreciative of all of you for just sticking with us and being with us on the Nikki Medoro Show. I'm Kim McAllister on What Is It? The Nikki Medoro Show.
There we go. All right, Kim. Now, what is the long? And now I know that you don't go to concerts anymore since you've been in radio because you were spoiled.
I'm so boring.
But when you were younger, do you remember ever waiting, in line or jumping through a lot of hoops to get tickets? Never?
You wanted to go to a concert, you bought the ticket, done.
On Ticketmaster, though, so you never waited in line or anything like that?
No,
So I remember waiting in line. I remember going to the box office. This was like Janet Jackson, Rhythm Nation, New Kids on the Block era kind of thing. I remember I used to go to this reggae music festival back when it was much cheaper. It was like $100 to go to a music festival. It was a 3-day music festival. And I think it cost like $96 or something like that. But you had to send in like this postcard and you had to like request the tickets and do all these things and that because they would sell out really quickly. And then they automated it and the wrong people got a hold of it. Now it's so much money. It's ridiculous. But I mean, it made me really want to see the artists or go to the festival. There was a lot of skin in the game back then. Now it's all Ticketmaster and you're competing not against people in line or getting your payment early. It's literally bots that you're competing with. Well, there's this pop star by the name of Maggie Rogers. Now you might not know her, but if you look on YouTube and you Google her, you'll see a picture with her and Pharrell Williams. Okay. As I'm happy, him.
Yeah.
He was listening to a bunch of songs that were created, I think, by these either high school or just these young musicians and giving critiques. And he heard Maggie Rogers' song, Alaska. I think it was Alaska that he had sung. Yeah, Alaska. He heard her demo and he was like, I have 0, 0, 0 notes. That was amazing. And basically the video went viral and kind of launched her career. Well, fast forward, that was in 2016 that happened. Now fast forward to today. She has told fans this month that she is not going to deal with automated scalpers, that you can physically start walking up to box office to get dibs on pre-sale tickets for her tour. So she says, this was actually Friday, whatever Friday was. This past Friday, she did this. They were running an in-person pre-sale where you can go directly to your local box office to buy a ticket. And they're all ranges. She's like, the process will vary from city to city, but any ticket you want, all of the prices and tickets will be available, along with exclusive merchandise and a special playlist that she cooked up for the box office just for that specific day. And so this reporter went. And I went to Maggie Rogers' Ticketmaster list in-person pre-sale. And they wrote, on one hand, I was able to buy tickets at the lowest price point I've ever paid for a New York City concert ticket in recent years. And I had much more autonomy in choosing a seat and a price point. I also was not beaten by scalpers or bots. I also really enjoyed meeting fellow fans, seeing Rogers herself being so engaging and friendly. On the other hand, this writer writes, it was definitely tedious to wait in line for so long, which is not something I'm always able to do on a regular basis with work and other responsibilities. It's also an accessibility issue for those who cannot physically stand in line for such a long time. So I ask you, viewers, which would you prefer? Ticketmaster, which I'll also argue. I mean, sometimes people wait in line all day, like in the online queue, which is easier if you can just put it on a screen and walk away. But on the other hand, once it opens up, you have to kind of buy the tickets that they offer you. And it could be really expensive or not in the section that you want. You can't think about it. You kind of are like, I'll buy. And you may not get the tickets at the price point you want versus spending a day, maybe 2, waiting in line with other fans to buy the tickets. Which would you prefer to do, Kim?
Neither.
Pretend that you want to go to a concert. Who out there you want to see? There has to be somebody.
I'm not sitting in line. I'm not waiting in line for 2 days. I'm not doing it.
So you'd rather just pay out the butt for a section or a seat that you don't necessarily want just so that you can beat the bots and get the ticket?
I guess so, because I'm not dragging my little chair out there. We've covered stories about this where people will wait overnight.
Yeah.
And they will, bundle up in the early morning hours and they're sitting there and they're waiting and they're stacked up. Forget it. My time is valuable. The ego of these artists to think that I would wait on the street bundled up in a blanket
Well, if you want to go, but what's the alternative? Then to go on Ticketmaster.
No. Line up in a queue, in an online queue. The first to sign up is the first one, as in order received. I'll click a box. I'm number 524. Done. Sell me the 524th ticket.
Yeah, well, the problem is that you're competing with bots. I mean, that's what Ticketmaster says the process is, but it's not always there, because when you're also online, you're competing with everybody online, which is a lot more people.
Right.
Versus competing with people that really want to see this artist. I like the idea. This is what I will say. I don't know how feasible it is to move away completely from Ticketmaster, but I like the fact of, you know what, 1 day or 2 days, for these 1 or 2 days, you can only get my tickets at the box office. And then you can go and do it online if you want to. But I'm going to get the fans that really want to see my show and are not able to beat the bots, but they sure can, sit and crash and make an experience out of it.
Can't we just target bots? Can't we just do a better job at bot targeting?
I would. Yeah, that's obviously.
Maybe you have to call and a human voice has to order a ticket. I don't know.
Yeah. Ricky O'Bear waited overnight to see Jimmy at the Forum in LA. Wow. RJ says, for The Who in 1989, my brother and I spent about 18 hours in line for tickets, ended up getting second row.
Wow.
In front of Pete Townsend in the Oakland Coliseum. Wow. See, it behooves you sometimes to wait. And then Ricky's like, and then we drove 5 days to see him again. This was for Jimi Hendrix, to see him again in New York. That's awesome. Yeah, I feel like if we're talking about something like music or like a concert, you want your fans to be in the crowd. Not rich people that could pay somebody to buy, and they could buy whatever tickets off of Ticketmaster, but somebody that really wants to. And part of showing that adoration is waiting in line.
Well, if you want your fans to go, the people who truly love you, you wouldn't price your tickets at, $250 each. So
they don't, though. That's Ticketmaster fees.
Oh.
That's what a lot of artists are saying. I mean, yes, then there's obviously the stadium and the whole Live Nation Ticketmaster thing has really ruined that whole thing. But Metallica, a lot of bands have been saying, dude, I don't want my tickets to be sold for this much. But then you add everything else and the whole corporation surrounding it. Karen says there was something about standing in line with the rest of the fans in line socializing. It was fun. But when I got older, I prefer online, and then it was not fun at all. Something happened. Jozu says, so it was fun to stand in line in the past. I wonder what changed. And nowadays they even have, like, you can hire someone to stand in line for you. Yeah. They do that with the Apple phone, and things like that. Janet says, I lived on the coast, so I never waited in line for tickets. Had to call in to buy tickets as I couldn't get over the hill. All right. Karen says, I could see the concert by buying a ticket to see it on the big screen TV and bring my own treats. That's true. That's very true. Lori says, waiting in line is a young person's game. Same for camping for phones. Ticketmaster is a monopoly. Fix it. Absolutely. Luis has a good point. I prefer my fan club membership to the bands I love. Cost of membership never exceeds $100. I already have my tickets to Foo Fighters. Oh, yeah. At the Ohana Festival. They go on sale 2 days from now for the public. Yeah, I saw a headline. Foo Fighters tickets are going on sale. Yeah.
Pre-sale for people on fan groups. That's kind of a good idea.
Well, yeah, they have it all the time. Yeah, like you get in. I saw Roger Waters a number of times because I love Pink Floyd, and I was doing that. Nick says Metallica's been overpriced for decades. Started around the time they sued Napster and had to cover legal fees. Okay, I didn't realize that. Let's see. I've seen Metallica at, I think it was Outside Lands. Is it Outside Lands? Possibly. I saw him at the night before the Super Bowl, the night before concert. I've seen him inside places too.
Didn't they do a free concert recently?
Oh, they do that. They do that. Yeah, they do that often. They like to give back to the Bay Area because they're from the Bay Area. Yeah. So I don't know. I just wish it was. I agree with the people that are saying fix Ticketmaster. But Lady Beatrice says Ticketmaster, in my experience, is a pain in the can. I'd rather stay in line. And Kim would like to see all artists boycott Ticketmaster and just sell through their own websites, eliminate the middleman. I could see that. I could definitely see that. All right. One last story.
Oh,
what?
Breaking.
What?
Breaking news.
Okay.
Tupperware warns it could go out of business.
I saw that. Don't buy Tupperware. It's a direct marketing scheme and you can buy better crap in the store. So don't buy Tupperware. That is my PSA to all of you.
Tupperware could go out of business. What's the world coming to?
Do you have Tupperware? Do you have
yes, I do.
You have traditional Tupperware.
I have traditional Tupperware. Back before I knew that buying plastic was wrong and we don't need more plastic in our house, and that I'm not putting plastic in the microwave or the dishwasher. So I have Tupperware. I don't use Tupperware. I now use glass.
Yeah, I use glass with like kind of it has like a plastic lid on it, that goes across the top. But Tupperware parties, that's like just like Avon and all that kind of crap, kind of preying on the moms, staying at home, that sort of thing. There's way too many options. I think Tupperware, I could be mistaken, but I thought they were going to start transitioning away from the parties and that direct marketing business format. But there's just too much competition in the storage container market. You don't need Tupperware. You just don't.
See you later, Tupperware. That's it.
Bye. Okay, let's see if you're going to say goodbye to the NFL Sunday Ticket. So YouTube TV, hello YouTube, has unveiled its pricing plans for the Sunday Ticket package of NFL games. And the prices are higher than what previous rights holders had paid under DirecTV. So here's the cost. Now, I don't know, man. We're talking about concert ticket prices. I don't know about this. The full season of Sunday Ticket will retail for $350, $349 for people who subscribe to YouTube TV's base video service package. Now, that package includes major broadcast and cable networks, and that costs $73 a month. So if you already paid $73 a month, you can add on $350 for the Sunday Ticket. If you want the Sunday Ticket but don't want to subscribe to YouTube TV, you'll pay $450. So it's an additional $100.
So what's the Sunday Ticket give you?
So the Sunday Ticket, I think, gives you everything but local, I want to say. I think that's it. So Sunday Ticket, you get access to all Sunday afternoon games for out-of-market teams.
Oh.
DirecTV, who had it before, charged about $300 a year to subscribers who signed up for the service's basic package of channels, which was about $65. Subscribing to just Sunday Ticket was not an option. So now you get the option of just getting Sunday Ticket, but you're going to pay $450 for it. This is my question. Is this just going to lead to more people stealing it? So it wasn't funny, but you know how I feel about sharing logins. So a lot of people are saying, I'll just continue going to the illegal streaming sites and I'll just watch it there for free. If you make something so expensive, a lot of people are going to be like, I'm just not going to pay for it. Some people are saying, I'll go to a bar, right? If I want to see a specific game, I'll go to the bar. Some people are saying, go to the gym, things like that. The new Sunday Ticket apparently gives you 3 streams, which is pretty good. So if you're in different houses or you have a lot of people in your home, you could possibly split it like that. I don't know. Let me know in the comments. Is this too much? Because I feel like it was possibly not a good move.
It's an awful lot.
Yeah. John says there are tons of illegal streams that are in HD. Yeah. Harry says I could finally watch Sunday Ticket. DirecTV was never an option for me. Interesting. Harry also says Google is so much more sophisticated than DirecTV when it comes to stealing. I feel like if you want to see your local team, you'll pay for it with either a subscription to something or something like that.
Right.
The out of market games, it has to be a huge matchup. And if it's a huge matchup, I feel like you could find somewhere else to watch it rather than paying between $350 and $450. YouTube will also offer a package of Sunday Ticket and the Red Zone channel. That's the network that carries live action from all the Sunday afternoon games simultaneously. But unlike DirecTV, YouTube's will carry the NFL version of the channel. And again, that package will cost you $389. I don't know. It's just, you add up all of these streaming services and subscriptions and add-ons. Jesus, Lord Almighty, I can't afford it all. Grady says, do not waste precious time on watching other people playing sports. If you must watch highlights and spend precious time being productive. All right.
Yeah, Nikki.
All right, Grady. Come on now. Harry says, I can't watch my favorite team because they aren't local to my market. That sucks. Yeah, Amy, as a diehard Steelers fan, my brother-in-law is a diehard Steelers fan. I didn't know why, but he is. Well, his family's from that area. But I think it's going to be too high. I don't think it's going to pay off for YouTube, but we shall see. We'll see if people want to fork over that amount of money to watch some games. You can watch in a bar. Although when you go to a bar, though, Kim, you end up spending a lot more money on the booze and the drinks. All right, let's say thank you once again to everybody that donated to our super chat. Jay Stiller started us off, pardon me, with a $5 donation, followed by Wes with the $10 super sticker.
Yay, Wes.
Colors of the Wind. I love your name.
Yes, it makes me think of the song every single time the song goes on in my head.
$20 donation from Colors. And that, honestly,
so nice.
You guys are so awesome, so generous. Again, click the thumbs up button before the show ends. It helps us out. YouTube loves it. I don't know if they love what I just said about the Sunday ticket, but I just got to be honest. But please visit theNikkiMedoroShow.com, theNikkiMedoroShow.com. Consider donating to our Patreon. It helps us out. It keeps the donations flowing in consistently for us, and we really do appreciate it so very much. From myself and for Kim, thank you so much, and we'll talk tomorrow. Bye.
Nikki, you're all so awesome. You're proud, like a beautiful blossom. You're all so the best. I really can't rest. You're all so awesome.
Wow. Okay.